All right, welcome to our Fit-Tastic at Home Partner Spotlight, featuring this week Broderick Crawford from the New Bethel Church Community Development Corporation, or better known as the NBC CDC. And my name is Matt Kleinman. I'm with Wayne, but I'm really excited to be here with Broderick because Broderick, we've worked for a long time together, and I know you do so much in the community in Wyandotte County. But tell me a little bit about yourself, for those of you who don't know you, and what it is that you're up to these days.
Hello, my friend, and thank you for allowing me to have some time with you today. Yes, I am Broderick Crawford with the NBC Community Development Corporation, subsidiary of the New Bethel Church. We were created to do work in the community to try to address issues that affect the community in which our church resides. So we're very much involved with multiple different things. There are probably 24 different projects that our organization is involved in, one of which is food insecurity, which we have a food pantry that provides food for our community on the first and third Wednesdays of each month from 2 to 4 p.m. I am very happy to be able to have a conversation with you about the work that we do and how it relates to the great work that Children's Mercy Hospital Fit-Tastic does as it relates to making sure that people in our community understand the importance of eating healthy, exercising, doing those things that would create positive health outcomes and extended long quality of life for our members of our community.
That's great. So really, really excited to have you and be able to chance to just kind of catch up and see what it is you're doing. So just for those of you people that don't know, you and I started working together about 5 years ago on the Jersey Creek Trail. And help me understand, what is the Jersey Creek Trail all about, and what is it that you've been trying to do within that area?
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. So the Jersey Creek Trail runs alongside of Jersey Creek, which is the sewer system that exists here in Wyandotte County. It runs from actually the river along 3rd Street. It goes all the way out further west, but there's a specific area between 5th Street and 18th Street that literally has a space where there's actually a walk pathway, there is a basketball court, there's a baseball diamond, there is a spray park that all is encompassed in and along the Jersey Creek Trail. When I was a youngster, that was a place that we went to play. That was a place that individuals from my neighborhood and other neighborhoods, we all gathered around Jersey Creek, and that's where we played. That's actually where I played football. That's where we played basketball. That's where I rode my bike. I literally, when I was a youngster, rode my bike actually in the trail or in the actual creek, not realizing that it may have not been the most healthy thing for us to do, but that's what we did to enjoy ourselves. And so that trail was a very vibrant part of our upbringing and my childhood. And since I've become an adult, I had noticed that the trail had begun to did not have the regular amount of maintenance that was required. The benches were dilapidated. The benches were in decay. And so it became important to me, along with your assistance, along with the DOT agency, with you, Shannon and Niels, to be able to revitalize, to revive that particular area. Jersey Creek Trail, actually, when you look at it where it is geographically, within a half mile, it reaches 20 to 25,000 residents in Wyandotte County that can literally walk to the trail. There are barbecue grills down there, there are picnic benches down there. And so it was a place where individuals in our neighborhood could gather, fellowship, interact with one another in a positive way. And so I had noticed that the trail, again, was in great need of disrepair. And I can remember talking with Jeremy Rogers, who was then the director of Parks and Rec. He was ecstatic that we were able to bring in upwards of $70,000 of non-UG or non-governmental local municipal funds to be able to impact the trail in a positive way. Since our involvement, we've been able to put in trail stations. We've been able to put in new benches, working with yourself and Youth Build, and with the DOT agency, with Groundwork NRG, which was formerly the Historic Northeast Midtown Association. We have gathered together, we have banded together, we have collaboratively put something into that particular trail. And it's interesting because residents from the area now can come over and walk along the trail. And we even, as you know, interviewed a resident that said they hadn't seen anything done in Northeast Wyandotte County to that trail in 40 years. And so it became important, it became imperative, it became a priority to bring something to Northeast Wyandotte County when much of the activity as it relates to urban development has all been out west with the legends. Nothing against the work that's being done out there. That's great work. But work has not been done in the Northeast corridor. Between 10th Street and 12th Street, between Quindaro and Central, there's not been a lot of work as it relates to economic development. And so we felt it to be very important for us to do something for the residents in that Northeast corridor.
That's the perfect response. And you went through so much that I think is important to talk about. And I'm going to skip ahead on the questions because this is something I wanted to chat with you about, because in light of the Black Lives Matter protests, in light of some of the harder conversations that's happening in our country right now about how investments and systems work, what is your guidance for those of us in Kansas City who want to see health improve in the built environment, but maybe we don't know where to start, or what we've been doing might not be working? What's your perspective on how we can work together?
Well, so let me start with COVID. So COVID-19, which is a pandemic that is currently ravaging our country, but is having the greatest burden of both positive tests and deaths are in the African American, Latino, people of color. And part of that is because of the other conditions, chronic conditions, which they have. So diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and all of those things are related to health. And I would submit that part of that is why we want to do what we're doing with Jersey Creek. Because if people are out walking, if they're out interacting, if they're out doing things that allow them to be more active, guess what? Their health improves. And so when we have issues like what we're talking about, it all goes back to the injustice that has happened in this country for years. Of course, you are very familiar with redlining and the Heat Report, which talks about how systemic racism has continued to be prevalent in our communities. We don't have the investment in our communities. We don't have economic development in our communities. We don't have access to health in our communities. We don't have proper nutrition. We have food insecurities. As you know, I currently live in a food desert. And so those things have occurred because of the lack of investment sponsored or created or initiated by the redlining that has ravaged our communities. And so it's very important for folks like yourself and others to be able to say, okay, it's time to do something different. As you know, the DOT agency has done a lot of great work as it relates to creating forms, as it relates to creating infrastructure, as it relates to doing things, whether it be posters or murals or all the great work that you all have done through the DOT agency. Guess what? That hadn't happened before. And so here's where, like you said, folks like yourself and your colleagues can do some things to help stem the tide as relates to the systemic racism that has occurred in this country. I've shared with people multiple times, as you know, I've been asked to be interviewed, and they said, Broderick, do you have hope? And because I'm a believer, absolutely I have hope. But we've got to remember, this didn't just happen with the death of George Floyd. We go back in 2014, there were 5 deaths. We go back to slavery. I point to multiple different instances where, guys, this is not new to us. This is something that we've had to deal with all the way back from when our forefathers were brought from Africa in slavery to this country. But for some reason, there are folks that just choose not to. I say they have their head in the sand syndrome, not realize what's really happening around them, because it's not happening in their neighborhoods because of redlining. We only had a certain area place that we could live. And so we can only live in the places where it was most harmful to our health. We've got the third largest railroad model. We've got highways. We've got the river. And so folks in Wyandotte County are boxed in. They can't get out. 1 in 3 families here in Wyandotte County don't even have a car. So how are they going to get out? The bus system, the public transportation here in Wyandotte County it leaves a lot more to be desired. And I'm one that at one time, as you know, was on the public system every day. And so it is really atrocious to see the plight of inner city folks, people of color, and what they have to deal with, and don't have a way to speak out, don't have a way to really change the paradigm in which they have to live day in and day out. And so when you say, what can we do? What has to be done is people have to bring the voices of others have to come to the forefront. It can no longer be just Black folks. It can no longer be just men. It can no longer be just gay folks. It can no longer be just women. It has to be all of us together in any significant change that's happened in this country. Whether we go all the way back to the founding of this country, when we fought England, guess what? It wasn't just one group of folks, the patriots, that fought. The civil rights, the Civil War, it wasn't just one group of folks. The women's rights, it wasn't just one group of folks. And so we have lessons in history that we seem to ignore. I think right now in our country, we're poised to do something. We're at the tipping point to be able to do something different in this country, but it takes all of us together. And I will tell you that for the most part, particularly when it talks about injustice and how we've been treated by police, people of color are tired. We're tired. Folks ask me, to share with me, dude, I can't tell you about your whiteness. This has been something that's been here from day one. From day one. So if you're not understanding what's happening in your country, that's not my fault. And it's not my job to teach you. You've got to be able to understand what's going on and do something to change the narrative that exists in this country.
I think my experience through Jersey Creek, getting to know you, I remember doing research and realizing that 1917, there were race riots at Heathwood Park in Jersey Creek.
Exactly.
Because there was a young white lady who said a young Black boy said something to her, and it started a race riot, and it was violent. And that
very similar to the young lady in Central Park who called the cops on a guy who told her to follow the law. Very similar.
Right. And I look at how redlining, but also white flight. I mean, I grew up in Overland Park, and I always thought it was somewhat curious that the schools I would go to were 97% white. And I think one of the things that I've had to unlearn is that it is not an issue of the neighborhood or the community that lives there. It's an issue of me as someone who is white, who has privilege, who has access, being able to speak out within my organization to say, we need to do better, and we need to be able to think systemically and not just at a community one-off project, but how do we really address the systems? And so you talked earlier about investment. And so I think about things like how we look at our taxes, how do we look at our community built environment, how are we prioritizing safe streets for everyone, how are we prioritizing access to parks. You and I have done a lot of work with kids in the community. Your project pipeline with National Organization of Minority Architects, working with Complete Streets projects with Northwest Middle School. Come walk with us. How do you
Well, KC, I mean, there are a number of organizations that have put their shoulder to the wheel, if you will.
But from a Children's Mercy perspective, how do you see the built environment and maybe the inequities embedded in it affecting our children and how that has an impact on health?
It absolutely starts with the children. So if our children aren't being able to grow up in a place that they're safe, in a place that they are giving nutrition. I mean, in Wyandotte County at one point, there were 1,400 homeless kids in the school system. Right now, we know that there is, I don't know the exact number, but there are a number of kids that if school is not in session, they may not eat. That when school was in session, that was the only place that they were guaranteed a meal. So you've got kids not being nourished, but yet still being asked to function in our society the same way those that their counterparts are that eat 3 squares a day. Check this out. It is almost better for individuals to get arrested because guess what? They got 3 meals and a cot. They guaranteed 3 meals and a place to sleep.
I know that you and I talked.
Get that outside of the penal institutions.
I know you and I talked a lot about this, but your church is doing food drives on the first and third Wednesday of each month. I was able to participate last week. I know I got a good sweat in. I know that work's going to be continuing. But what's going on with the food deserts in Northeast Kansas City, Kansas? I probably know about it as much as anybody, but you live in these neighborhoods that the closest thing is a Save-A-Lot, and it's an hour walk away.
Well, and again, when I talked about when I used to ride my bike in Jersey Creek, I could ride my bike to multiple grocery stores. There was a grocery store on 5th and Washington. There was a grocery store on 7th and Nebraska. There was a grocery store on 10th and State. And so when I was a youth, there were multiple grocery stores in this community. Today, they're none. There's zero. They don't exist. And although there's a Save-A-Lot and we got multiple Family Dollars, Save-A-Lot, yes, is a grocery store. Aldi's, yes, is a grocery store. But again, I live on 8th Street. Save-A-Lot is on 29th. Aldi is on 45th or something. So again, for folks in the neighborhood that I live, there are no legitimate grocery stores. And so our food pantries and food distribution sites become crucial to providing food for our families. Check this out. We normally would average about 75 to 100 folks that come to our pantry prior to COVID. Now that we had COVID, as you saw yourself, we had almost 200 folks that came to our pantry the last time that we were open. So folks are hurting. When Harvesters had its 3 trailers, there were over 1,300 folks that came to it. And so programs like Children's Mercy weighing in becomes a critical part of how we connect people to not only just being able to eat healthy, not only just being able to exercise, but being able to talk to one another. I myself, when I worked at St. Luke's, I was heavier than I am now. I didn't start working out until I had a friend of mine that said, "Hey, Broderick, why don't you come walk with me?" Well, guess what? I started walking with her, and the two of us together began to impact each of our health. And that's the key. Very rarely do you have, unless you're just a workout geek, average Joe citizen is not going to just get up and go walk. But if you have a program that allows people to come together, to fellowship, to learn, to exercise, to learn about nutrition, it then allows them to be a part of a larger group. And that larger group has the significant impact necessary to promote positive health outcomes.
And so I know we have a Merck coming into Kansas City, Kansas. It's a grocery co-op out of Lawrence, Kansas, but there's also community efforts to get a grocery co-op up on Quindaro Boulevard.
Correct.
And we've been doing work with Jersey Creek, but there's been a lot of neighborhood leadership. And just talk to me about the importance of working with the community as we start to do these public health projects. And I'm comparing that to maybe the elected officials approach or the economic development approach. What does it mean when we come with public health partners to work and empower the community as part of the process?
Similar to what I spoke about with the protests and the move, effective change happens from the grassroots level. If people on the ground, boots on the ground, don't want to do it, I don't care what law you pass, it is not going to happen. So having organizations like Dot Agency, like the Community Health Council, like NBC CDC, like Groundwork NRG, formerly Historic Northeast Midtown Association, like the Heat Cab. Those kind of grassroots organizations become vital because they consist of people in the neighborhoods. They consist of residents in the particular areas that we're trying to serve. And that voice is the voice that can effectively help us, that can effectively share what is needed in order to initiate change. And without that, you're just talking to the walls. So in order to have buy-in, you've got to have the folks that are actually living it day in and day out. And so having that collaborative effort, as you know, I often say, God, I'm tired of the silo effort. We no longer need to be working by ourselves. Together, we can do more than any of us can do individually.
So speaking to that effect, if somebody wants to see what you're doing, I know you are at the county level helping with the COVID-19 response. I know you're at the national level talking about some of the same issues we've been talking about today. Where can somebody find you? Where are you out there that they can reach you, or if they want to learn more about the work you're doing?
So certainly going to our website, which is www.nbccdc.org. I'm certainly a member of New Bethel Church, which is at 745 Walker in Kansas City, Kansas. Once COVID clears, our professional office is at 803 Armstrong. We lease space from the Community Health Council at 803 Armstrong. Any of those three locations, we've got a Facebook account. We have, Instagram, and so we're very reachable. Certainly anyone can reach out to me. You can share my email address. We want to be here for the community. We want to make sure that the community that I reside in, I live right here at 8th and State. We want the community that I reside in to be able to have access to those folks who are providing resources to the people that need them.
Great. And the last question for you. This is kind of a fun one, and I know we've had a heavy talk, but what is your personal favorite way to be physically active or healthy in the community? And don't say Jersey Creek 5K, because I know that would be the answer.
No, actually that wouldn't. So you know the answer. So I love to walk. I absolutely love to walk. I love to go out and interact with community. So I love to walk to 7th in Minnesota, where the primary bus hub is. I love to walk to Big 11 Lake. I love to walk to the Beatrice Lee Community Center. I love to walk to Central, where CABA is. So I very much enjoy walking and biking. So those would be the two things that I would say provides me the greatest opportunity to be physically active: walking and biking in this community and interacting with people in my community.
That's great. Anything else you want to leave us with?
I would just say that I am certainly grateful to Children's Mercy Hospital. I've worked with a number of Children's Mercy researchers, my friend Kathy Goggins and Andrea Bradley Ewing and Shelley Sumner. You know, those are folks that are understanding the value of working in community. And so I'm very thankful for the work that all three of them, as well as many others, but those are three that I've personally worked with. And certainly with you now being there, helping us be able to move the needle as it relates to positive health and understanding the importance of nutrition in the communities we serve.
Well, I thank you, and I know that love is mutual, because you've been an incredible champion for the Wyandotte County community for many years now. So it's always a joy to connect and to see your face, and I look forward to doing that a lot more once COVID-19, we get that under control. So in the meantime,
you need to be able to get out and walk your dog at the 5Ks.
That's my favorite thing to do. So for folks, check out the links below. All of the things that we've talked about, you'll find a link for them, and stay tuned for our future installments with the Fit-Tastic at Home and highlighting some of our partners But thank you again, Broderick. We, really appreciate it and all the work that you're doing to keep us healthy and safe and to help keep our neighborhoods healthy as well. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.